Hey there, skate fans, biohackers, and nasal breathers. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I decided to make this video because I think we need a comparison video here. It's no secret that I'm a big fan of these nasal strips, nasal bands from Intake Breathing. Been used them for several months now and the results have been pretty remarkable. Feel free to look at my previous videos if you want to see how much they actually help me in terms of recovery stats, sleep, HRV, heart rate, and obviously respiratory rate. But now in this video, I decided to see if they actually make that much of a difference compared to some much cheaper nasal strips. Obviously, these come at a high price. It is $50 for a 30-day starter pack, which is basically 5-8 times more than the cheapest ones you can find out there. So I feel like it was time to make a video where I try and compare the different ones and basically give you an idea of like how much extra breathing do you basically get for the extra money you spent. Obviously these works, there's no doubt about it, but can you get close to those results using some much cheaper nasal strips? So I went out and got these Equate from Walmart. They are less than $8 for a 30-day pack, which is very different from the Intake Breathing that comes at $50 for a 30-day pack. Now, if we look at them, obviously they are very different. And of course, there's got to be some reason why you would want to pay that much more money for the Intake Breathing. I personally have had really good results, as you may know. But who knows, maybe I was able to find those same results using some much cheaper nasal strips. So the first thing, other than the price, the Intake come at $49 for a 30-day pack. A 30-day pack means that you get them with obviously the strips. You can see that I'm actually wearing them right now as I record this video. I do use them every night and for most of my workouts. They come with 30 of these small magnetic strips that you apply on your nose, as well as a cool box here where you can keep this little magnetic applying tool. And they also come with different sizes of bands. In a starter pack, you get 6 different sizes, which is really cool. And I do think that's one of the big advantages. Because if we do look at the Equate nasal strips here, they only come at one size. One size fits all or one size doesn't. Putting them on is, I would say, time-wise fairly similar. So when you apply the Intake Breathing, you plug them on using this on each side. And then you just, push them in a little and make sure that the glue actually sticks. When you use the Equate nasal strips, the much cheaper ones that are very similar to basically all the nasal strips that you would find if you go to a Walgreens or Walmart, you hold it there for 30 seconds. So obviously this is a little faster to put on, the Intake, but time-wise, it's really not that time consuming. With the Equate, they'll work right away. The Intake, wait about 3 minutes and then you put on this metal band that clicks on, and at this point, as you can see, it really pulls out the nostrils. So applying, I wouldn't say there's a big difference. The biggest difference that I found is the resistance or how far apart they actually pull your nostrils. The Intake Breathing is pretty incredible. I'm not gonna lie about that. I think the M2, so basically a medium band, fits my nose, but I can use the L2, which I do overnight. I put it on and then it doesn't just keep my nostrils open, it really pulls them further apart. So I don't snore, and honestly, I breathe way better. Looking at my respiratory rate overnight, it goes down about 1 or even 2 breaths per minute, which is percentage-wise crazy. And I do think that's a big part of why it's led me to a higher HRV and a lower resting heart rate. The Equate, on the other hand, does not provide the same resistance. I think a really good test to do is simply putting it on and trying to breathe in with your nose as hard as you can, and you will notice that the Equate will simply close your nostrils, and whereas the Intake is basically gonna hold them out to the point where there's almost no difference. Now this becomes really handy when doing hard efforts where it will just hold them open. So I decided to put them to 3 different tests. Basically the resistance, as you can see, and the next one was how well they stick overnight and during a workout. The first of them, I was actually surprised by the Equate nasal strips from Walmart. Overnight, they held up. I could put them on and they were still in that position the next morning. Intake Breathing, obviously I use them every night, so I know that they can hold on for a night. And my personal record with them is actually having them on for 3 consecutive nights, meaning I use them through my workouts the entire daytime and then still have these magnetic strips that I can just put the band on overnight, which I honestly think is pretty crazy. This, of course, also leads us to the next topic on my test. How well do they sit and how well do they sustain longer workouts? The intake breathing, I can wear them through any workouts. I think the longest I've gone is a 7 hours and 2 minute bike ride where they were still there afterwards. I do think the biggest hurdle for basically all nasal strips is sweat, as well as, you know, the whether you want or not, that you keep touching your nose a little every now and then. You gotta, if it's a long bike ride. Where obviously the intake, they handle that super well. Once you put them on, they simply just stay there. I did put the Equate nasal strips to test, also on a bike. I did the same with the intake breathing. Intake breathing isn't as exciting because they stayed on. The longest I managed to have the Equate nasal strips from Walmart on my nose is 21 minutes of a bike ride. And as a professional athlete, Olympian, we tend to bike longer than 21 minutes. So when it comes to using nasal strips and bands for practice or training, regardless of the price, you should not go for the cheaper nasal strips, because I don't see the purpose in saving money if you can't use them basically at all. The intake was definitely superior. So to summarize a little, obviously the intake are way more expensive, about 5 to 8 times more expensive than the cheapest nasal strips and nasal bands you can find out there, but they also have much more of a purpose. There is really no idea in saving money if you can't use them at all. So if your goal is to use your nasal strip, nasal bands through workouts or through several consecutive days, you should definitely go for the intake breathing. If you really just want a nasal strip, well, obviously you can try and go for the cheapest one, but as I've shown here, the resistance and how much they can actually hold and pull your nostrils open is basically close to nothing using the Equate or any of these low budget nasal strips, whereas the intake will hold them firmly out there regardless of how hard you breathe. And I don't think there is much of a benefit to it. I do think the reason that it is like this is, well, first of all, because these are firm, you cannot bend these basically, and they come in all the sizes. So you will have one that fits your specific nose, the size of your nose, whereas the Equate ones is a soft strip. So as you can see, it can bend, which also means it won't hold the nose open, because even to apply it, you have to pull it in or push it in there. So it just does not have the same strength. So even though they're cheaper, I am not convinced that they actually give you a benefit. Overnight, I haven't been able to see any difference in my stats using the cheaper strips. Whereas if we talk about the intake breathing, it's been very consistently way better sleep and no snoring. If you are on a budget looking to buy nasal strips, I simply wouldn't, or I would step up my budget game and get the intake breathing. I will of course leave a link below in this video for you to check out the intake breathing nasal strips. They have a cool website. You can choose the color you prefer and have them shipped to your place in no time. Try them out. I am pretty confident that you will not regret it. And also, despite probably watching this entire video, you'll be surprised what a difference it makes, whether we're talking sleep quality or performance gains. So looking forward to hearing in the comment section below if you have any experiences with these or other nasal strips / bands. And I enjoyed having all of you guys for this review video of the nasal strips. I'll see you for the next video. Hit subscribe, like, share with your friends if you haven't already. Bye bye.